Hey guys, it's Sparkles here, making another video, which might as well be called Cringe-worthy Videos with Sparkles, Episode 3. Anyway, today I'll be talking about autism, an overview of everything to do with autism. Okay, so first of all, what is autism? Autism is a developmental disorder in which 1 in 64 people are diagnosed currently, but it's expected to be higher than what is currently diagnosed. And each and every one of us are different. There's no one trait which every single autistic person has. It's a combination of numerous different traits that are often very common together that make up autism. So anyway, it affects us in 4 main areas, as well as one area which is comorbid disorders. So the first area I'm going to be talking about is behavioural. Behavioural differences include differences in body language, differences in facial expressions, struggle with making eye contact, stims, which is basically repetitive movements that help to calm down and give a sense of repetition, which is comforting for someone with autism, as well as a repetition of phrases or words that convey a certain idea or not, but to try and help get an idea across. The next area which it really affects people with autism is developmental. So it affects in areas like struggling to learn to talk, low fine and gross motor skills. For example, my handwriting is so bad that I have to use a laptop. I've been known as probably one of the worst handwriters in the school. So yeah, and also low muscle tone, which partly influences my bad handwriting. Learning disabilities are also not common, learning disabilities are not uncommon. That includes things like dyslexia. That can be under comorbid disorders, I guess. And then we get to the big group, cognitive differences. So this involves very intense interests, known as special interests. These are something which autistic people obsess over for an extended period of time, and may be one of the only things they're interested in talking about and learning about for that period of time. A very high variance in abilities. For example, you may expect someone to be consistent with their A's or B's or C's in schools, whatever. But for me, I get A's in maths and physics, and then I'm getting D's for French and languages. So very high differences in abilities. The next is a low theory of mind. That is struggling to understand how the other person may be feeling. This could be that they've been through something that I don't really understand, but they're feeling sad. But I can't tell exactly how they're feeling. Maybe I said something, I can't work out how that's going to make them feel. And that brings me on to the next point. An apparent lack of empathy. I say apparent because it's not completely true. A lack of... there's numerous different types of empathy. One of them is to do with your responses. And others are to do with how you feel compared to what they feel. So people with autism struggle with picking up how they feel. So like me, I can not go through a day and have no idea how you're feeling, and then but if I heard how you're feeling, if you explained it to me, I would feel almost overwhelmingly empathetic for you. Because people with autism, where they lack with that one type of empathy, they make up with the other types, commonly. And then the next is a need for routine and sameness. I don't know if that's actually a word, but anyway. So a need for routine. This is to do with people with autism. They need routine. It just, I don't know how to put it. It just makes sense. It helps them to make sense, helps us to understand how the world is. If we have the same routine, it allows us to get through as well as extra things. So because I've got special interests, I may be really into them, I may end up, without having a routine, get through spend all my time, forget to eat and stuff on that one special interest. But if I have a routine, it allows me to spread out my time between different things and all sorts of things like that. Another cognitive difference. I am really bad with pronunciation, sorry about that. Another difference is the inability to predict how other people will react. So like I said before, I struggle with predicting how people are going to react to a certain comment I make. It's not inherently hurtful, and I never try to make those, at least. No, I don't try to make inherently hurtful comments, but sometimes I may come across that way. It's something which I really struggle with, and I really work on. But it's, as hard as I try, it's really tough. The next is quite a high prevalence of giftedness. Giftedness is to do specifically with the IQ level, which isn't technically a good representation of a person's abilities, but it can point out things about them. So, around about 2% of the autistic community are gifted, while compared to about 0.1% of the normal society, neurotypicals. Then the next is good at problem solving, because with autism you struggle to learn something until you properly understand it. Well, at least that's my own experience. Every experience is different, but I basically find that with me and other people with autism that I've met, it's a high level of problem solving. We're able to take out what we know and work out new things based on that. Another thing is hyperfocus. This is the ability to go on to one thing and continue at it rigorously until you're done with it. This can be also to do with special interest. Let's say my special interest is a TV show. I could get so focused on a TV show that I'll completely forget about everything else. That has happened a couple of times, to be fair. Sorry. It can also be helpful. So let's say I'm doing a math problem. I will be able to finish it. And I will, if you give me enough time, I will be able to finish that math problem as long as I know the base work of it. I can even expand on my knowledge by working on and applying what I know to learn new things, to solve that problem. The next is a tendency to systemize things. Now this I'm very, very good at. And by good at, I mean I do it a lot. I have lists for literally everything. I've got lists for the TV shows I want to watch, bands I want to add to the list of bands I like. I've got lists about what lists I'm keeping currently. I've got a list of what videos I want to make in the future. I've got lists of homework which I make, which is not uncommon. I've got lists of what I'm planning to do in the day. Lists for pretty much anything I can think of, which apparently right now I can't think of very much. But I know I've got more lists than that. Then another thing is struggles with non-literal language. Now, I personally am not bad at that. Too bad at least. But that's partly because when I was younger, like grade 5, grade 4. Oh, hello Bobo. I don't know if you can see my dog there. Say hello Bobo. Anyway, when I was in grade 5, grade 4, I literally went online and searched lists of idioms, expressions and metaphors, and learnt it. I've said literally way too many times. And learnt it so I could understand metaphors better. So that's helped me. But still, anytime I hear a new one, it takes me at least a good few minutes to try and work out properly what it meant. And if someone's being sarcastic or joking around with something which they may be serious about, I never get it. I always miss it. But everyone else seems to get that they're joking, but I never seem to be able to. So the next thing I'll be talking about is sensory differences. So that includes pretty much all 5 senses. Very sensitive to tastes, very sensitive to light, able to tell great difference, good ability to tell differences in pitch and tone, greater hearing abilities, greater intensity in colours. For example, 85% of people with autism see colours so brightly that they're fluorescent. If you want to know that and more facts, check out a good autism blog, embraceasd.com. As well, but these, though they're not inherently negatives, lead to sensory overloads, which can then lead to shutdowns and meltdowns, which are different. And I'll go into that in a different video someday. Probably. Yeah, I will. I think that's actually next on my list. But shutdowns, and a quick rundown of shutdowns and meltdowns. Shutdown is when you close out everything. Meltdown is also when you close out everything, but you are more aggressive, you like push people away. Or shutdowns, you just like close up into a ball and you can't, and when you just, both of them cause from sensory overloads. And the last thing, comorbid disorders and identities. So there's a very high prevalence in alexithymia. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but what it is a inability to describe one's own emotions. I personally struggle with this, and a lot of other autistic people do. 55% to 60% of people with autism struggle with that. I don't know the stats on this one, but very high prevalence in ADD and ADHD. A very high prevalence in depression and anxiety, though that's a lot to do with things like social isolation, not being able to understand what other people mean, teasing. But I'll go into comorbid disorders more in the future, as well as OCD. Then there's also not a disorder, but there's a higher percentage of transgender autistic people, as well as addiction being very common with autism. And then the last one, which links into depression and anxiety, is that suicidal tendencies are really common with autism. So that's all for the increasingly dark list of comorbid disorders. So last thing that I wanted to add is that autism, like I said earlier, every single person is different. I personally really struggle. I have a lot of cognitive differences. I struggle a lot with sensory things, but I wasn't that influenced by development differences. Though I do struggle with behavioural differences. There are other people, I know some which are cognitive pretty similar, but then behavioural, development and sensory are very different. So all of us are different, and like my teacher literally told me this morning, once you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to check out my other stuff, like, comment and subscribe. And if you think of and if you want to ask me a question about autism, just leave in the comments. Bye!